Hey, Ginger, this is Mark Mohr with Christafari. How you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm so glad to talk to you. I've never talked to you guys, and I am a big fan of your music. So
Awesome.
I'm excited. I'm excited you guys have a new album out. So how is it going?
It's going great. It is going great. Just got back from Brazil and getting ready for to go to Africa and then Europe.
I saw like you have a lot of different posts in different languages, so I know you're doing some traveling because your posts are even in different languages.
Yeah.
For those who haven't heard of you, which there are some people might have not found out about you, you guys have been around a while. Can you kind of tell us how you guys came about?
Great question. Yeah. Well, I was a rebel. I was running from God, and He was always pursuing me in love. And when I finally stopped running and turned to Him, I was almost 18 at the time. At that time, I was singing reggae, doing reggae for the world. I felt like God was saying, "Do reggae for me." And since that day, I never touched drugs again. I gave my life to Christ, and He put a new song in my heart, just like it says in Psalm 40. And so I just kind of set out to tell the world about how Christ had transformed my life, brought me from being lost to being found, and I didn't expect it to be a career. I didn't expect it to be, almost 30 years later, still doing it. I just wanted to shine my light for Christ, and sure enough, each year things continue to grow, and we continue to reach more people, and of course the band has evolved over the years. As we've gone from industry standard to a ministry standard, and from a ministry standard to a mission standard, now we're missionaries or musicianaries. The mission has been the same: to reach the lost at any cost and make disciples of all nations.
Well, I do love that you guys say that. I love musicianaries, because I love some of those phrases because I think it makes people second think about what you're about. And I had somebody recently say, I'm afraid to tell people what my faith is because of the churchianity out there. Like, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's such a great word because, it's become less about, who it's about, and it's more about a building and what you're supposed to look like and sound like and that kind of thing. But, reggae is huge. I mean, reggae is so popular anywhere, and it's so well received anywhere. I think that you can play it because when I hear it, I either want to dance, tap my foot, or I just want to like bob my head and that like just chill, like it relaxes me or puts me in a good mood like every time. And you guys have a new song out that I'm a really big fan of. It is the one that's called "What a Beautiful Name." I just watched the music video. It's really amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, we love reggae, and I am so blessed to serve a God that is so creative that obviously we don't create reggae. God created all different styles of music, and I believe they can all be used to glorify Him. But reggae specifically, if like let's say death metal for some people may be off-putting, reggae is kind of on-putting, if that was a phrase.
Yeah, exactly. You're
it
right.
puts you at it puts you at ease. It's welcomed everywhere. If you got somebody that like, I don't know, hardcore music, or you got somebody that likes country or jazz or blues or rock or rockabilly, chances are they also have some Bob Marley in their collection, and they enjoy that also. And so I think that there's something about marrying worship with this easy, breezy, island sounds that just make it even lighter. I can't tell you how many people say, I love the riff, but I like your. Yeah, there's just nothing like merging worship with reggae, and
Yeah.
it just works so well. We have "What a Beautiful Name," and then our most recent video that we just launched yesterday is called "Good Good Father," and that was filmed in Thailand. You can see all those on YouTube.
And is my understanding by looking at the press release, you roughly release one video per month?
One music video per month, one album per year, one tour per month, in at least one different country per month. So
Do you
this year
eat? Do
we're
you
doing.
do you sleep? Do you have families? I'm trying to figure out how in the world you fit any of those things in there. They must all travel with you.
Yeah, my wife plays bass and sings in the band. She's the one who sings "What a Beautiful Name." Our daughter has been on 272 airline flights. Um, we here's the thing. You know, when the disciples heard the Great Commission from Jesus, every one of them went to another country, and every one of them gave their lives up for the gospel. And I just don't. I don't think that any of us should do anything different. I know there's different levels. Some people are called to send. Some people are called to go. We're definitely called to go, and so we go.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm exhausted just like hearing all of that. Because I get like automatically think of all the packing, the unpacking, the
Yes,
hotels, and some of the
yeah.
good, bad
Some of
food,
the,
depending on where you're at.
oh,
um,
it's a challenge. It is an adventure. It's a roller coaster. It is the best of times and the worst of times. But here's the thing: when Jesus in John, in the fourth chapter of John, he's talking to the woman at the well. The woman goes off to tell everybody all the incredible things that he said and knows. And then the disciples come and say, eat something. And he said, essentially, he said, no, I'm good. And they're like, what food do you have that we don't know about, you know? And
right.
then he says, my food is to do the will of the one who sent me, and to essentially carry it to completion. And then they're like, well, what is that? And then he said, look, you say the fields have a few more months till harvest. I tell you, the harvest is ripe. And essentially, what he's saying is, what satisfies me, what brings me soul satisfaction, is to do God's will. And there's nothing like, if you've ever been on a mission trip, you know
Oh
that
yeah.
soul satisfying feeling of, I'm in the center of God's will. This is where I should be. You know, when you go to youth camp and you just feel like closer to God than you've ever been in your life. Well, what are you doing? You're surrounding yourselves with other believers. You're talking about Jesus. You're praying to Jesus. You're worshiping Jesus. You're living out the Word, and that's just what we're trying to do, is just live out the Word.
Well, I'm interested to ask you a question in a second, but first I was looking at your like some of your information. It said that like from like 2016 to 17 that you saw over 231,000 decisions for Christ at your events. Is that right?
Yeah, we target as we go to these other nations. This year we'll go to 20 nations. We target the largest outreaches we can do. Imagine Billy Graham. If Billy Graham had his own band, he did. It was Cliff Burrows and George Beverly Shea and everything, but Billy didn't come up and sing often. He just preached. But
Right.
it's the same concept. Greg Laurie does his outreaches in Texas and in California, and he sees, 10,000 decisions for Christ through doing that. We try to do that on a smaller scale, but in a grander way. Basically, we target the biggest outreaches in Brazil. We target the biggest reggae cities in Argentina, in you name it. We're going this year, Melanesia, which is like Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Australia. We're doing the Indian Ocean, Seychelles, Mauritius, Reunion Islands, places you've never heard of, where reggae is huge. And when we go there, because we have 60 music videos, people are going to be like, these guys are massive. We got to come out and support. They come to a free concert. We share some testimony in between songs. We sing all of our hits, and towards the end, I give the gospel, plain and clear, and in an inviting way. And we just see sometimes half or more of the hands raised in the audience. We try to partner them with local churches and get them discipled, get them tapped into the church and reading, praying, and sharing their faith. And it's life changing. Our goal is 1 million souls within the next 5 years.
My goodness. Well, and what I think is kind of hard to wrap my mind around is we have more with technology. We have more ability. We have more
Yeah.
resources. We have the biggest ability in, like, decades, ways to reach people for God. But there is such you know, a hindering, like something stopping up the well or something, where like you'll see these like different areas of ministry that are having like massive success, but then like I'm seeing like churches upon churches upon churches dying, and not being able to reach new people. Like it's like the same people that stay there and no one new comes in ever, hardly, like. But though, I mean, it's different when with a concert, you can, music can reach people, I know, on like a different level. But obviously give the gospel at the end. I want to hear when, because that's really where I was headed. You're saying you say it, you give the gospel, but in a more inviting way, for people who are like, trying to reach people who are lost. What's kind of like a quick, uh, kind of a, what would you call it, the dummy's guide to witnessing to somebody, or like the Cliff Notes version of how do you make that sound not preachy when you're trying to just let people know who your savior is, and tell them you want them to know him too.
Well, that's a great question, and I think that it also ties into why you say certain churches are dying, because they're not evangelizing, they're not growing, they're just spoon feeding the audience each week. They're saying, "I'll do the preaching, you do the listening, and you do the tithing," and you just build this corporation of the church that to me isn't what we find in the Book of Acts. So I'm not dissing the church. I love, but people need to understand that it's not a building. We are the church, and we as believers need to learn how to share the gospel, because it's Christ's parting words. It's Christ's possibly most important message to all of us, is to go into all the nations and preach the gospel. So I guess what I would say first and foremost is it has to be personalized. It has to be contextualized within the context of who you're talking to. It can't be a script. It has to be honest. It has to be open. It has to be conversational, not preachy, not off-putting. And a person with a megaphone on the corner shouting the Roman
Judgment.
road. it may be fruitful, but I've never met somebody who's come to Christ that way. Every time I ask people, how'd you come to Christ? It's not because it's something they saw on TV or something impersonal that happened in church, because somebody invited them, or somebody shared with them, or somebody talked with them, or somebody prayed with them. And so you can be that somebody. Even when we do our concerts, people aren't just walking off the street. Somebody's inviting them. Somebody's caring enough to drive them, or to take them to church afterwards. So yeah, we start there. I would start with your own personal testimony. You can't go wrong with your testimony. Everybody needs to know your testimony. Now, notice I said testimony, not cinnamony. So, it's not about your sins. It's not about. It's not about.
It's not just about the conversion
awesome you did before you came to Christ, and then talk about how you don't do them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be 70% what God has done in your life since those cliches became true: lost, found, blind, sight, darkness, light. When those things came true, how has that transformed you, and how has that changed you? And that ultimately, I believe, is what's going to attract somebody. And that's what we try and do. We share our different testimonies. Of my testimony, I was a drug addict. My wife, she was molested and then raped. Another band member was born legally blind, suicidal, abandoned by his father, and abused by his stepfather. We talk about how God brought us through those things, brought us out the other side, and gave us hope, healing, joy, peace, and forgiveness for the crud that we've done. And so we share those things. But so people can't argue with your testimony. They can't say that didn't happen. They may not believe in the Bible. That doesn't mean the Bible shouldn't be your authority that you stand on, but they can't say, hey, you weren't a drug addict when you were. They can't say you aren't sober when you are. And then what I try and do is get behind the heart of the gospel, the heart behind why God calls sin bad, not because he's the cause of killjoy, but because your sin hurts you, he loves you. Your sin hurts others around you. Second greatest commandment is to love others. And your sin, well, it negatively affects your relationship with him, the harmony. You know, nothing can separate us from God's love, but it affects the harmony, the intimacy of your relationship. And that's why Adam and Eve hid right after they sinned. God knew where they were. He didn't.
Yeah.
He was like, "Where'd you go?" We do this. We do this, and that's another thing that I just did. Is I just brought in humor. Humor is a crucial part of it. It's just making people at ease.
Oh yeah.
And understanding that your agenda, it needs to be not necessarily an agenda, but it just needs to be your heart for other people. Your goal is you cannot save somebody, but God can. But you can share God's love with others. And what people do is when somebody knocks on their door, Jehovah's Witness, or with rides up on a bicycle with a white shirt and a little button that says, you know, Latter-day Saint or whatever. When people see these people of different faiths, they ask themselves, could I see my life turning into that?
Yeah.
If I were to transpose my life over this life, do I want to shave my head except for a little ponytail and wear a pink sheet and say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? No, I don't. No, thank you. I'll say no to that one. And ultimately, what's going to have somebody say yes is a movement of the Spirit, a conviction of through the Word of God, a personal testimony, or someone's life touching theirs, and ultimately that someone's life impacting them in such a way where they're like, I want what they have. And if you listen to 1 Peter 3:15, it says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have within. It's not for the judgment, it's for the hope. And an answer implies that somebody's going to ask a question, but it says to do so with gentleness and respect. And I think that if we can use that as our mantra for sharing our faith, as St. Francis of Assisi said, everywhere you go, preach the gospel, using words when necessary. He didn't say don't use words. He just said that your life has to be consistent with it. That the two have to become one. You can't be split. You can't live two separate lives. You know what I mean? You gotta be whole. It's integrity. That's what the word integrity means. It's something that is whole, that is true, that is pure, and that isn't double-minded. And that's ultimately our goal, is to live a contagious Christianity.
I love what you said about it not being a cinnamony. I used to call it a bragamony, because sometimes it becomes like, look who I am now. As almost like we did it. We even though we might have taken part in it, we were there. It's him that does the work through us, and I love the way that you approach that, because Rich Mullins is one of my favorite people of Christian music industry. And one of the things he said to me that I'll never forget, what it said on air on the radio, is he said, because I grew up in the 80s, so I've been around a while. And he said it's not I became a Christian not because someone told me what the nuts and bolts were of Christianity, but because someone was willing to become the nuts and bolts of Christianity in my life, and
I got goosebumps on that one.
Like, that stuck with me, because in other words, I can't, because I want somebody to know the Lord so bad, and the more in pain they are, the more I want it. And so myself gets involved, not even for selfish reasons, but myself gets in the way, and I have to say, you know what, it isn't, I can't tell them what just tell them all the do's and the don'ts, basically. And because when there's a do's and a don'ts, then it automatically converts into works. And then, works becomes about, it's me doing the saving. It's me doing, it's a me salvation, and it's not. But Yeah, Rich Mullins. I've looked up quotes of his at times, just to look through his quotes because he said the most profound things that would just level me on an interview on the radio or on TV or something or at a concert. I got to see him a couple of times and I was just dumbfounded when he would speak, when he would just quit playing the piano. And there were times that he would just not talk for a minute. And like you were saying, use words when possible. Technically sometimes a little bit of silence is sometimes what people need and and just to absorb what you just said. And I honestly I could probably listen to you forever. Like I love where your heart is. I think we need this to like wildfire around the world. Like it needs to just this kind of energy of everybody and the whole band. I tell you, tell your wife she is beautiful. By the way, you said that was her singing in "What a Beautiful Name."
Yeah.
Yeah, she is beautiful as out and on the outside, and she can sing. But I mean, you all can obviously, but you can really hear her personally in that particular song. But I'm a big fan. I love that you took where you're where you were at and you know just started doing it for God because that's what I as in radio our particular station we play indies, we play people that no one's heard of. I play Rich Mullins, some people don't know who that
Amen.
is. Like we play what's good, what's inspiring, what's spirit led, what's good, and what's different. And that means all different styles. It means mixing because some people, I have a kid that likes nothing but rock. One likes pop and country, and my son likes everything. And I love R&B. I love pop. I love Frank Sinatra. I mean, like I love all different styles. So I mean, but there's some people who really only like a couple of styles of music, and I heard somebody say recently that was talking about the music industry and said, we call it contemporary Christian music, but it's only contemporary because it's not hymns anymore. It doesn't, it's not really contemporary. If it was contemporary, they would be playing hip hop, rock, reggae, uh, con-
rap,
country.
yeah.
I mean,
all kinds of crazy. Absolutely. Can I touch on something that you said that I just really really enjoyed? I think you and I are kindred spirits because Rich Mullins has such an impact on me too. First it was Keith Green.
yes.
And his life, his story, his book, No Compromise. He just bucks the system.
Yep.
And I always regretted the fact that I never got a chance to meet him, but his No Compromise concept just transformed my life. Now, I moved to Nashville. I did the whole industry thing. We were signed to Toby Mac's label. We had the major tours and did, had the manager and the press releases and the GMA and the this and the that. Got nominated for a Dove Award. I was on the path towards how do we become the next? How are we the next Supertones, the next Audio Adrenaline, the next
Right.
this, the next that? We were striving towards that, and we went and filmed our second music video while on tour in Arizona. And we're staying in this place near Window Rock. And I remember going there as a teenager when I was a drug addicted youth. My parents forced me to go on a mission trip. I was like,
my mom did too.
to the Navajo of all people. And so I remember going back and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the exact place where I didn't want to go when I was a teenager during spring break. And now I'm back here. And then everybody's like, oh, do you know Rich? And I'm like, Rich who? They're like, Rich Mullins. I'm like, of course I know Rich Mullins. He sings Awesome God. They're like, well, he lives here. I'm like, what?
Yes, he does.
Nashville or whatever. They're like, he lives here. And so I get to go and have dinner with him. We shared a Navajo taco. And I remember asking him every question that I could about how to make it in the industry. And I remember him telling every one of those questions like it was a mosquito
Yep.
in the Caribbean.
Swatting
He
it.
was like, that is not what matters. That is not what's important. I left all that behind, and then I get to see what he moved into. He sold everything he owned, and he moved into
Yep.
like a hogan. It looked like a little mini igloo. It was so small. It wasn't even like 25 feet by 25 feet, and it was about 13 feet from somebody else's house, and somebody else's house. It wasn't even on its own private property. It didn't have a glorious view. And I'm like thinking to myself, this guy gave up all his money, all his riches, all his royalties to go and live amongst these people. To me, quite frankly, it seemed crazy. But now it's my life in many ways. It's a huge inspiration to me. So I salute that ragamuffin man for sharing the ragamuffin gospel, and I think his movie that they did was fantastic.
I actually did PR for that movie. I actually did like showings,
nice.
like when they were trying to get showings, they needed people to like go like be a captain for the theater, like to put the movie in and to take the movie away to make sure it didn't get duplicated. And so I did several of those because I was like, Rich Mullins, yes, I'm there. I'll promote it anywhere you want me to. And you know what's great about Rich is that he got to the point where he was making too much money, and he said he wanted them to only take what the average American worker, had, and that was his salary, and he didn't take nothing else. And so he lived on what everybody else did, no matter how much money he made. And
the royalties went towards Native American music instruction and things like that, and that inspired us to go and minister to the bottom of the Grand Canyon to the Havasupai Indians. I actually spoke with Rich's sister about it, trying to connect with them in creative ways to how to reach those people. So we're trying to keep that vision alive, and obviously on just not just in limited to one tribe, but to all tribes, all nations, whether it's the Maasai tribe or the Havasupai tribe or the long-necked tribe or whatever. We're doing our best. But yeah, Rich, I salute the life that was, again, just like Keith Green, cut way too short.
Way
but I just
short,
feel like they were so heavenly minded that God's like, okay, come on.
I want to think that they were like Enoch, that they just kept walking, like no matter what happened here on the earth, that their soul went walking, like they didn't experience that, impact of the crash or whatever it was. For me, I just thought all I want to think is that he just walked off, and he was just one of those people that makes me constantly second guess myself and challenge myself. He left that big of an impression on me. I wondered if you'd been in touch with any of his band members that were.
No, I never did. I've never met them. I just knew Rich, just in passing, and then of course different award shows. I remember one time at the Dove Awards, I think he received some sort of lifetime achievement thing or something like that, and he just stood up there and rebuked everybody in Jesus' name. I wish I had the taping of that, because man, he just set them all straight. This is not what matters. And if you think about it, I mean, okay, here's a great example. When we went and did our first album in Nashville, I walked into the bathroom of the studio of Mark Heimerman, and he had the Dove Award, and the wing of the Dove Award was holding the toilet paper.
Oh, my gosh.
First I thought it was sacrilegious, but then he's like, that's all they're worth, man. And it's really true. You can't bring them with you to heaven, but you can send people ahead. The only eternal currency is winning souls, and that's what we're trying to do.
And Mitch McVicker, he is still doing music. He worked with Rich from pretty much the beginning, and he's still doing music. So if you need to be hooked up with him at all, he's a friend. So
do me a favor, please encourage people, and if you could do the same, go to Christafari.com, click on join email list. That way, next time we release another album, another single, another video,
then they're the first to know.
We do it all the time. you'll be the first to know. And then if you could just encourage people, and if you would consider it also, as you can imagine, 12 trips a year is about as well. It's the biggest budget that we could ever imagine, and it's something that we just can't do on our own. So we rely on people who believe in the vision, the mission, to partner with us on a monthly basis in order to make it happen, so that we can go and help fulfill the Great Commission. So if you could encourage others to do the same, and if you would prayerfully consider it, that would be awesome for us. We could use as many partners as possible to make this mission accomplished, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. It's just such an incredible honor to have talked to you, and I feel like I have a new brother, and I'm glad uh, to know you're like-minded. I love. Oh, by the way, I do have to go, but one Rich Mullins thing that is so funny is that one of my friends does PR, and she said one thing she loved about Rich is she lived in Nashville, and she said one day she was sitting on a bench eating her lunch, and she said a homeless guy sat down next to her, and she said at first I thought I should move, like I don't know who this is, and then she thought, well, I need to be kind or whatever, and she looked up and she goes, Rich? Yeah, she thought it was a homeless person, but she said because he walked around with no shoes and a ragged
Yeah.
T-shirt and jeans with rips all in them, not because it was stylish, but because
Yeah.
that was all he had on him. And she said, Rich, I thought you were homeless, and he said, I'm not. He just like totally. She said, I love that about him though. That she said, here I was like in my head, and there he is, just unabandoned, like, I don't need shoes. I'm fine. It's a good day. I got on a t-shirt
Yeah.
and jeans. I got everything I need. She said, but his hair was really long, and it was kind of scraggly that day. And she said
Oh yeah.
she was like, she's like, I was a little bit wary of you when you first sat down. And he's like, yeah, I probably need a shower and shave or something, like, but then he just sat and proceeded to have this like wonderful conversation with her. And she said he was like that every time she encountered him, just so full of love. He just like spilled out love all over you every time he saw you. And so I feel you're going to be one of our new Rich Mullins to pioneer the next generation. So we need to
Amen.
birth some more people just like that to buck the system, and not because we're rebellious, but because we are revolutionary about it. That we want to change the way they're thinking about what music really does for Christianity and for the Father. And it's all about Him. It's not because there's an award show or because we want to be on Billboard or whatever. It's because we need to reach His people, and we need to reach the people who are hurting. And I think you guys are doing such an amazing job at it, and I will be praying for you guys and doing everything I can to share what the heart of what you guys are doing. So thank you so much again. And if I didn't have another interview, I'd probably keep you all night. So probably a good thing that I have another interview coming up.
Well, God bless you, and thanks for sharing that quote about Rich. I'm going to post it right now on our social media.
All right. Well, thank you so much.